so what's really amazing, and then you can also jump in. That's our very first data change maker event and project, which I think is really cool. So I think before we start the meeting, I'd like to quickly acknowledge the work and the legacy of this for social good, and I can recognize many of the names that were part of the journey. As I said, Denise, I can see many names that were volunteers, leads, ambassadors from this for social good, which basically set the foundation. Now we call data change maker. Hang on, I'm just getting just admitting people as well as we speak. So we're born from the same desire, I guess, to use data for good with the broader mission. So I thought I'd acknowledge that. I think it's good for everybody's being here. So today we're kicking off at event with Anusha, with Bhumi. So most of the time will be you presenting your organization and presenting the project to the volunteers. So you're probably going to have 45 minutes presenting who you are, the project, and then volunteers can ask questions. The data is live on the project site as well. I've got a couple of slides. I just want to explain how we run projects. Maybe a quick show of hand in the chat. Who's brand new to this for social good or data change maker? Who's never done a project with us? Can't be brand new. Oh, Chris is here. Hey, Chris, how are you?
We're good. I just got here.
Yeah. Brand new. So there's quite a few brand new people. So I think it might be worth explaining the way we run our projects, which is around 4 to 5 weeks. Vanessa, do you want to have a quick word as well of welcome? Since you just had the coffee now.
Yeah.
Put you on the spot.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're just so excited for having our first project just a few months after we started the organization. And thank you, Bhumi, you'll always be remembered as our very first project. So really looking forward to it. In fact, I've seen that you have 20,000 plus volunteers. So you're going to have to coach us to get as many volunteers. And so we're looking forward to hearing from you, learning from you, and then also, participating in your project.
Thank you, Vanita. Excited about this opportunity. We're looking forward to working with the volunteers, and it'll be interesting for us also. When I make my presentation, I'll explain. It'll be interesting for us to see how your volunteers view our volunteering data, because that's what I'm going to be talking about. Yeah.
You'll see that our volunteers are very creative. They always find interesting ways to tell stories, but also to clean up the data or to prepare the data further. So I think we're very collaborative, and that's something I want to reinforce with the Slack channel we've got that we use as a very good platform to collaborate among volunteers, because it's not a competition. Everybody working towards the same goal, which is helping you, Anusha, Bhumi.
Yeah.
So we try to bring our best within the community, which I think is very interesting.
Yes.
So I'm going to share a few slides and show you the agenda. But as I said, I promise it's only be five minutes just to set the scene. People in the call, if you have questions, put them in the chat or wait 5 minutes and come off mic. It's not a formal meeting or presentation at all. But let me share my screen first. So what I want to show you, you see my slides? I hope so.
Yeah.
So that's really what's motivating us really is driving change through data. So today is a big day. First data change maker with Bhumi. Anusha, you are a guest with your colleagues. We really privileged that you're one of India's largest volunteer-driven non-for-profit. As Vanita said, it's amazing to see how many volunteers you got. So we also keen to learn from you. So there's a very basic agenda. Welcome. I just want to explain, especially to the newbies, how we run our projects. And then Anusha, you'll have the half an hour, 45 minutes, how long as you got, just to tell us about Bhumi, about the project, about the challenge, about the data. The data is live on the website, and then I can also explain the supporting model, which is basically using Slack. And then we'll have volunteers asking questions. And when we start a project, which is today, there's a kickoff, we often find volunteers asking questions after. So we sometimes even build a QA document that we share on Slack as well, because as volunteers start to dig and use data, questions just come up. So a bit of a, I guess, project flow. So step one is just now today. So we kicking off the official project. So live kickoff. Step two is basically where the fun happens, where volunteers can work in groups or individual. So there's no rule. So often we get volunteers ask us the question: Can I work on my own, or can I work in a team? It's up to people to decide. There's no real rule for that. The data is on the project website, and I'm going to show you the project page where you can find the data. But as soon as you download the data, you can just start finding stories and insights and trying to be impactful. So that goes for about 4 to 5 weeks. Then the next step is to submit your work, which is the deadline was set by August the 17th. So I think that's probably 4 to 5 weeks, roughly 5 weeks. So there's a form on the website, which I'm going to show you. But basically, you submit your work. For the newbies, we are tool agnostic, so you can use any tools you want. That could be Tableau, Power BI, Looker. We've had people using drawing in the past, Figma. It doesn't matter too much. As long as you can find good insight in a story is what matters. But as long as the submission is in a web form, sometimes people share Dropbox links or Google Drive link if it's a Photoshop file, for example. So you need to submit that to us by the 17th. And what's going to happen is when we get all the submissions, towards the end, which is the volunteer presentation, I'm going to be asking Anusha and the Bhumi team to select their favorite 5 volunteers or projects, just because we can't invite everyone. So sometimes we have 30 to 40 submissions per project. So it would be impossible to meet them all and choose everyone. So it's hard, it's tough. It's not a competition, but Anusha would have the pleasure or the hard job to select the 4 to 5 volunteers based on their own criteria. So it could be storytelling, or it could be the most impactful data story. We're not getting involved at Data Showmaker. It's really Anusha and the team that selects them, not us. And then on the 22nd of August, we'll invite those 5 people to just present back to Anusha and the community with the 5 to 10 minutes, basically show your screen and then share what you've done and explain to Anusha and the team your storytelling. So that's a bit of a full circle. What happens often, which is not really the scope of the project, is we often have post-project where out of those 5 volunteers, or even out of those 30 or 40 volunteers, sometimes the not-for-profit decide to use one of the V's or story or dashboards to implement in their own environment, in their environment. So there might be like a post-project activity where the Bhumi team might contact a volunteer or two to say, "Oh, I really like your V's. Can we do a bit more work after?" So that happens after, but that really depends on the not-for-profit. So that's basically the way it works. Kickoff, collaboration happening 4 to 5 weeks, then submission. I always have volunteers asking me, how do I submit? So I'll show you the website, but it's important that you submit your work, otherwise Bhumi won't see your work. And then selection, and then at the end we have a close-off kind of meeting where the 4 or 5 volunteers will present back. That's the kind of work. I'm going to spend another couple of seconds on showing you the website, because that's where you can find the data. But I'm sure Anusha go through the content of the website, which is basically the brief of the project. But often volunteers ask me where is the form. So I just want to make sure that you know where it is. So obviously on our page, and I can paste that link later. But if you go to the project page in there, so the top part is, I'm going to leave that to Anusha because I think she's going to explain who they are, the goal of the project, and so on. That's context information, basically. Even brand guidelines are in there. So you can see the data is explained there. So the data is there as a Google Drive link. There's a couple of data sets, Google Sheets or CSV files. But that's where you find the data. That's important. Couple of key dates, which are here. And then this is where you submit your project when you're finished. So submit that towards the end, but obviously before the 17th or on the 17th. So it leaves Anusha enough time to select 5 or 4 or 5, and then I'll invite you to present back. And that's all explained there. The last bit I want to highlight, especially for the newbies, is, as I said, we use Slack a lot for collaboration purpose. So we got a project collaboration channel on Slack. If you don't have access to Slack, I think I've given access to a lot of people, but if you don't, maybe just ping me your email. I can invite you today. But basically, if I show you my screen, that's a data changemaker Slack project collaboration in there. And in there, you can basically ask your question and you can tag Anusha if you have data-related questions, or if you want to share a draft, or sometimes volunteers are looking for buddies to form a team. So any project-related questions, or even sending drafts or mock-ups, you can do it in Slack because it's very interactive. And you find that active volunteers often answer each other questions, especially the new volunteers that need some guidance. So use Slack a lot because I think that's a very good platform. Do you have any question on that? I think it's quite straightforward, but I'll leave that to it. But yeah, please send me your email if you don't have access to Slack, and I can give you access straight away. But otherwise, if there's no question, but I don't know if I've missed anything. Just jump in if I forgot something. Yep. But otherwise, Anusha and your colleagues, whatever you want to run that, and I don't know if you got slides or presentation, but that's over to you, and then volunteers can ask questions at the end.
Sure. Thank you, Frederick. I will. I'm going to keep my presentation really short, not very long. I'm happy to take questions and make it more interactive. I'll just briefly share what Bhumi does, why we do what we do, and yeah, and then happy to take questions. So I'll start with what are the problems that we are trying to solve in India as a non-profit organization. So we see a lot of education gap in India, and our focus is primarily on government schools, the public schools system, where there is a huge network, but there is a lack of resources, and also learning levels don't match what is expected for that grade across various schools. So that's one of the focus areas for us in education. The second bit that we work on is the leadership part. So we feel like we need to groom more leaders in the social space to tackle some of the very complex challenges that we face. And we need more people taking ownership of their surroundings, of their own problems, and figuring out how to solve them, which is why we promote volunteering in a very big way in India. One of the things that we say is that every Indian volunteering is our goal, because we see that as the biggest way to build capacity to solve all the problems that we have. Like leaving everything to the systems is probably not going to work. for us. So we need to take ownership of our problems and figure out our solutions to them and work on them actively by promoting volunteerism. Other than volunteerism, there are a couple of other aspects that we work on when it comes to fixing the leadership gap. I'll speak about them very briefly, but volunteerism is a very big part of it. And then we also work on the other thing that other mission that Bhumi has is that we want to enable a sustainable livelihood for all children, right? So we want to fix that gap either through making education more accessible through scholarships or through providing skilling for our youth so that they are more employable or their chances of employability increase, and the skill gap between what employers are looking for versus what they have acquired despite their limited resources, especially if they're coming from underprivileged backgrounds. We are able to fill that gap. So that's the other thing that we work on.
Anish, is it possible to make your screen a little bit larger?
Sure. Is it showing you my whole, because I'm trying this.
Yeah, it's showing this add notes to your design and all of that. Just there's a full screen mode.
Is this better? I tried, I mean, I'm trying this, or let me try the other other format, because I'm trying this Canva presenter mode for the first time. Maybe that's
okay. This is a bit better. It's a bit bigger.
It's pretty cool though. I like that Canva.
I was just thinking, oh, we should try this out too.
I'm trying. Okay, let me know if this is better, because then
yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, then I'll keep this mode. Yeah, if this is good, then I'll keep this mode. This is good. Yeah. Okay. So what we do, so we define the problem and what we identify as possible solutions to these problems. There are probably many, and there are a couple of lakh NGOs in India working on different problems, but this is our way of approaching this. So to fill the education gap, we have programs that focus on foundational literacy and numeracy in government schools. So we saw this problem, especially post-COVID, when children came into school straight into grade 3 without having acquired what they needed to learn in grades 1 or 2. And the public school system does not have the capacity to bridge that gap, right? If it was a private school, they probably hired more resources or they even had online classes, which public school students for a large part did not have. So we focus on foundational literacy and numeracy, particularly grades 2, 3, and 4, and work with them on improving learning outcomes in English and math. Then we focus on STEM learning for children who are in grades 6, 7, 8, 9, and then also 11. The 10th and grades 10 and 12 are left because they have a board exam or a checkpoint exam in those grades, so their focus is there. So STEM learning is the focus for grades 6, 7, 8, 9, and 11. Through all our education programs, there is a thread of social emotional learning. So even when we are teaching English, there is a focus on SEL as a key capability that we want children to develop. And then we work on building school infrastructure. So we either make classrooms or labs, or sometimes even you just need bathrooms, drinking water facilities, whatever is required. So we do an analysis, a need analysis in schools, especially the schools that we work very closely with. And then we present this to donors as a gap existing in that particular school, and we build school infrastructure. The leadership gap, we have we run something called the Bhumi Fellowship, which is to build change leaders in the education space. So we have a 2-year, very immersive fellowship program where fellows go and work in government schools. They work with the school leaders, they work with parents, so they work with the community and they work with the children. They try to improve learning outcomes while also building capacity all around and improving the entire ecosystem, focusing on the child, like keeping the child at the center so that they have better learning outcomes and they have a better environment to study in. The next two parts are the ones that are important or are key to this discussion, because that's the kind of data I've shared. So we had a system called chapters. We had chapters in different cities for volunteering. So everyone in a particular city would be part of that chapter and they would run various volunteering initiatives. This year, we are making a shift to something called volunteering clubs, where we're trying to make it more local. So basically, ultimately, the goal could be that we wanted to have a volunteering club in every pin code, because then what happens is volunteers are working on problems that are at their doorstep, literally. So they have that much more agency also, and the interest in getting it solved. It makes it easy to volunteer as well, because the opportunities for volunteering are more accessible when they are closer to you within your own pin code. So with that in mind, we've shifted to volunteering clubs, where there could be several volunteering clubs in a single city, and each volunteering club takes up activities and initiatives that are meaningful to them and that the volunteers are invested in. Then we also have a team that enables volunteering for corporate employees. There could be different reasons for this, and that's the team that Neha leads, Neha Srivastava, who's on the call. So there are two things to it. There are corporates who donate to Bhumi as part of their CSR commitments, and they look at volunteering for their employees as a way to deepen their impact in the particular projects that they have chosen to contribute to. And then there are also corporates who engage their volunteers for various volunteering activities as a way of giving back to the society, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be tied to their CSR donations, but they organize. So for example, last month, Neha's team organized a Blue to Green campaign because it was World Environment Day on June 5th. So with that as the focus, there were a lot of environment focused activities that happened all month, which we work with corporates, engage their volunteers. It could be cleanups, it could be tree plantation, it could be building sustainable or reusing material to make sustainable products. It could be any one of those initiatives, but we have a team that engages corporate employees in volunteering activities. And then we also have a program called Eco Champs, where students are sensitized about the challenges that we are facing with respect to the environment and climate change. And we enable them to make more sustainable choices and be more aware of what is exactly happening and what they can do to make a change. And then the livelihood gap, we focus on giving scholarships, like I said, to enable education for students who are coming from underprivileged backgrounds. We work on skill development and helping youth be job ready, and also providing mentorship, because even if there's a child who's coming from an underprivileged background, they probably lack confidence or the communication skills to represent themselves well, even if they are extremely skilled. So we work with them on the mentorship part. This slide speaks about the details of the whole school transformation. I covered most of this when I spoke in the previous slide, so I'm going to kind of skip it. And this is what I spoke about when it comes to volunteering. We want to make volunteering a national habit, and we want every Indian to volunteer. So these are the main focus areas for our volunteering efforts through Bhumi clubs, where we have, say, for example, shelter homes are government-run institutes. We don't call them orphanages. They are shelter homes. Not necessarily any abandoned children would be taken into a shelter home and nurtured there. So we run programs. So in shelter homes for to bridge the gap in education that they might see. So we work with 200 plus shelter homes all across the country through our volunteering projects, where our volunteers go and take classes over weekends. We also do a lot of cleanup programs, tree plantation programs, making seed balls. These are the focus of our volunteering projects, and the corporate volunteering team has their own list of activities that they have to engage corporates in. So the data that we have shared with Frederick, and which is available now on the website, focuses mainly on what happened in 2024-25 when in Bhumi clubs and corporate volunteering events. So, and like I mentioned on the side, the data is pretty self-explanatory. Now, what we are looking for I think this covers what I want to speak about Bhumi's work. I won't go into more detail. This presentation has a lot of other information. I'm happy to take any specific question, but I'll also speak about what we want to see. See, there are many aspects to why we want great visualization for our volunteering data. First and foremost, it's to enthuse our volunteers, right? So if everything is in a spreadsheet, you can report numbers. You can say, oh, we did so many events and so many volunteers came and we cleared so many tons of garbage. But to really inspire them to show the impact that they've created, if there is something that's more visual, more appealing, maybe interactive in a way, it gives our volunteers a true sense of what they have accomplished, right, in a year, what our volunteering efforts have accomplished in a year, which just numbers would probably not do such a great job of doing. So we'd like to show our volunteers what their impact has been. And this is some feedback that we've got from volunteers as well, that, it would be nice to see the impact of what we've done. It would be nice to, and it can also, especially with our new clubs model. So in the spreadsheets, you will see that there is a column saying clubs for our civic volunteering program, but all of those entries will not be filled. But like I told Frederick, this is data for the past year, but we'll probably use the same kind of template if we want to visualize the data for the coming years as well. And then if you see that a particular club or a particular area has been doing A, B, C, D, E, you want to learn from them, you want to understand them, you probably may want to replicate what they're doing, especially if they've seen success. And this happens when we're able to share these stories across many clubs, and all clubs are able to see, every club is able to see at the national level what is happening overall. So visualization helps over there as well, in order to show our volunteers what is happening, both as the as feedback in terms of the impact they've had, as well as what is happening elsewhere and what can be learned or what can be replicated as a model. And the third thing would also be, this is also true for the corporate volunteering team, right? If we can tell them after every event that this is what happened in the event, but then at the end of the year or over a period of time, or even live, right? Every time an event gets added, or at the end of every week, if we're able to create this dashboard and say, this is what happened this week, or this is what happened this month, it's enthusing for the volunteers. And the third thing would be, it's extremely hard to raise funds for volunteer run programs. So it's that we do get asked this question, like, it's a volunteering program, why do you need funds? But then, there are expenses that we incur as an organization, and we also need to enable systems and processes in the background that make the whole process more efficient, that make reporting efficient, that make data collection more efficient and not seem like a bother. We want to run or we want to have a lot of events. For example, one upcoming event for Bhumi, we want to have something called Bhumi Campus Awards, where we recognize the most sustainable college campuses in the country as a way to encourage even other campuses to adopt those practices, to be part of the social fabric more actively. So we want to, when we want to do events like this, when we want to raise awareness, we do need funds, and raising funds for volunteering programs has been hard. So if we want to show a donor, like, what is the impact a volunteer program can have, then a stunning visualization is obviously going to do a lot more than a lot of spreadsheets. So I would say this is the broad goal for what we want to accomplish, or what our hope is for achieving through this data visualization project. I think I'm going to stop there. Neha, is there something that you want to add?
Thanks, Anusha. Hi, everyone. I'm sorry, I'm just keeping my camera off because the network is really poor. Anusha, you've essentially covered everything, but I do want to kind of just add to the fact that having a visual, dashboard, or I don't know what's the right word to really use, but something which will help us really keep the track. Just looking at it, it really makes a lot of difference to the work that we're doing, because you will not believe, but almost every month, a day or two goes in us collating everything put together. and it's quite a task. We would love for it to get a little more automated, a little more streamlined, and that will be a huge help.
Yeah, and the other thing that I'd like to mention, so I've only shared a year's data, right? It's also possible for me to share data from the last 2 or 3 years, because it'll also help us identify. The visualization can bring alive some trends which you might not just see in numbers. Like, say, is there a particular type of volunteering activity that is popular, or is there a particular activity that is popular at a particular time of year, or are those kind of insights? If we are able to see the information across different axes of, say, timeline, type of activity, and how many volunteers we engage. So there is a lot that can be done with the data, which I don't think we are doing as much as we probably could and as much as we should to make volunteering a national habit. So that's our hope for this effort.
And Anusha, also, if I may, I just want to reinforce that you remove all the confidential information from the data. So you might see mask IDs, so that's on purpose. So the Anusha's remove all the names and date of birth. But obviously in the real data sets, those would come up. But for the purpose of this one, because it will be publicly shared, there's no confidential or information. It's all been removed, just in case you're wondering. What you're doing is very inspiring, Anusha. I think as an organization, it's even more inspiring for us to give you a hand and then help you unpack and leverage your stories.
I'll be sure to pass this on to our entire team. There's 80 of us working together to
wow.
Yeah.
And for maybe the benefits of the team, how do you do that? You gave us a couple of spreadsheets. Do you do visuals already using Excel, other tools? So do you have a preference with the output, or it doesn't matter? So what's your current system you use?
So currently we use spreadsheets and we use some charts. We do use Looker Studio to create some dashboards. But most of them are used for internal reporting, not, and when we present data to our volunteers, we generally say, oh, these many hours and these many volunteers participated, and which, I mean, I'm sure that's also great to know, but in terms of having that wow effect, I think we're definitely missing that right now. So we do have some basic reporting, but but we are not particular about the tool. What we are more interested in is the creativity, right? In how this, because if possible, then like you said, we'd love to work with the volunteer to figure out how to bring that into the systems that we are already using. But the creativity of seeing the data in a particular way across a few dimensions, that would be something that would be immensely useful to us.
And you want to repeat as well. So post-project, you want to be able to add your own data, but the visual refresh. So there'll be like some sort of handover process where the visual you like, or the dashboard or report, can be used after project, and then you can use your own data.
Yeah. Ideally, what we do is we make it live. Like, as the data is getting added into our system, it should kind of pop up on the visualization so that, we are able to see how the impact is growing over the course of a year. Maybe we should have one section which talks about over the last 3 years, this is what got done. But if we have the core idea of how to present it in a way that's impactful, that would be very, very helpful.
Yeah. And I guess that's a reminder for the volunteers. Like, thinking about the project itself now, but also thinking about the next step. Like, do you need to get into the corporate servers of those words like Tableau, Power BI, Looker, or whatever, just to make it live? I think those are the discussion, maybe post-project, but I think it's interesting to have those thinking now. Cool, I think that's good. So it leaves us a lot of time for question and answers anyway. So if you have questions.
I have a question. Actually, Anusha, I'm just curious. So you have 20,000 volunteers. Like, how are you tracking the information? Like, the actual impact to the end recipient, which is the students and the schools? Like, how are you tracking that via your volunteers?
So we have attendance information that we record regularly, especially for the education programs. And then we do baseline, midline, and endline assessments so that we know whether our intervention in going and teaching in the school or in the shelter home is having a measurable impact in their learning abilities. So that's for the school or the education related programs. For other programs, like we do beach cleanups or any other cleanup we measure how many tons of garbage was collected, which was sent off to recycling centers to be managed better than just getting dumped in a dump yard, and we also we at until last year we were measuring the number of saplings we planted, like how many trees were planted. From this year onwards, we have a goal to even check the survival rates, like 1 year on, 2 year on, to see how many of them are actually making it, and growing into trees to, improve our green cover. So we have we measure things like that to show as impact to the end beneficiary.
Great, thanks.
Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That's very cool. So time for questions. Questions about maybe Bhumi or the data, or question about the process itself, about data changemaker, the way you get started. As I said earlier on in a call, use Slack. I think it's a good platform to ask for help. If you're just starting up and you don't know where to start, you can ask the question there, and then someone that's a bit more experienced can give you a hand. In the call now, I think we've got a bunch of previous Vis for Good volunteers or leads: Denise, Adrian, Venta, and myself, of course. So you can always ask anyone in the Slack chat to give you a hand to start. But any specific questions about Bhumi or the data for Anusha? Don't be shy.
I'll stop sharing my screen unless you would prefer for me to keep this on.
You can stop. I guess that should be fine. Yeah. Just a word for all the volunteers, like, please, encourage all of you to, do something and submit. I think many volunteers end up having imposter syndrome because they feel like, oh, my visual isn't nice enough or fancy enough. I wouldn't worry about that, because it's about creating the impact and telling a story. So it doesn't have to be a, all out high professional visit. In fact, it's interesting, some of our previous projects, the ones chosen by the charities, may not be the ones that are the most technically superb, but they've told a very powerful story. So just to, please submit, be confident, and have fun at the same time. And we're all here to encourage you and collaborate and give you advice as well along the way.
Yeah, I forgot to say this. We are really all experience or skills level, so you can be just brand new beginner, and let's say you're a Tableau expert, but you want to learn a different tool. That's also a good way to learn a different tool by exploring a very good data sets with a good org. Anusha, do you see the question in the chat?
I was just gonna say the
mobile PC, I think, is an interesting one. It's always coming up as well.
Yeah. So the way I see it, we most likely put the visualization either in a report that we send out, or we would put it up on our website. So mobile only in the case when the website is opened on the mobile. But I think if it is both mobile and PC enabled, that would be helpful. But PC probably more than mobile. The second question is, are there any specific questions you're most curious about in the visualizations? So I think this is what I was saying, that in the beginning of the call, that I put it like back to you, right? As volunteers, what enthuses you the most? Like if you were working on tree plantation projects and going and teaching schools, children in schools, or you were doing cleanup activities or any other kind of project. So we are we are still figuring out how to present this information back to our volunteers and also to our donors in a way that is most impactful for them. We would want to understand, I think I put it on it's there on the project page. We would want to understand, is there a particular kind of activity that is very popular? Is there a particular kind of activity that is popular at a particular time? Or it's popular in a particular location, but it's not being done in other locations for some reason? These are some of the most basic questions that are occurring to me right now. Neha, is there something that you are looking for specifically from the corporate volunteering data?
I think more, Anusha, you'd already mentioned more like a trends, like what's like really uh, effective for us. So we currently, what we do is we actually analyze the monthly data and we track it with the progress. Like if, let's say, I want to complete a certain number of volunteering, where am I currently? How much more am I supposed to do? So essentially very similar to how Data Studio works, and a little more segmented. Yeah, I think that's how it would be very helpful to us.
There's a question from Santosh that we have 2 data set files. Can we know a bit more about this data? Share it on the screen and give some intro how they relate. Okay, I can share it on the screen. Is it okay to do that?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
And
okay,
on the top of that question, something that often people ask us is, because there's 2 different data sets and it's very rich, there's a lot of dimensions and measures. Volunteers don't have to visualize everything because that'd be super daunting and super big project.
Yeah.
So the suggestion is probably to visualize a couple of interesting insights or dimensions and measures that you find there's interesting information, but you don't have to visualize a whole lot because there's probably too much information.
Yeah. I'll share the first data set, which is our civic volunteering information. So this is I'm sorry if let me see if I can increase the font size somehow. Just a second. Yeah. Here. So this is events run by our various clubs, right? And so we have a cause, when the event happened, the start date, end date, and then what category does it come under? Like, is it a cleanup drive? Is it volunteering at a shelter home for animals? What is it? Location, how many volunteers came? What is the duration? So that gives us the number of volunteering hours that went in for that particular volunteer. And then we have like, what is the outcome? And the outcome is measured in some, the number of beneficiaries or how much trash was collected. So outcome 1, quantity 1, outcome 2, quantity 2. And that's about it. These are all, so this is bare minimum data, which is split by event. This is the first sheet. Yeah. And the second sheet.
And Anusha, on this one, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
What did you say? Why there's no club names? Some of the club names are blank. I can't remember why. Can you repeat that?
Yeah. We were in a model where we had city-wise chapters. We transitioned that to the club model only recently. Like the whole transition process started very late in the last financial year, and the Indian financial year is April to March. So it started very late in the previous financial year, and this year we've kind of fully transitioned over. So data that we get this year will have the club name. So if volunteers want, what I can do is, for example, put all the same club name for all events in a particular city and share it so that it's not a blank field and probably gives more information. If that'll help, I can definitely do that. And the data in the civic in the corporate volunteering sheet is also very similar. Again, it's event wise. Here, I removed the columns which had data of who were the event coordinators, because that had emails and personally identified information, names and all of that I've removed. So here I've kept the corporate partner and encoded that name so that their names are not shared publicly. So their city, which corporate partner, what was the event, time, start date, duration, how many volunteers. And again, the same impact indicator 1, impact indicator 2, how many volunteers actually turned up. So if you say total number of volunteers, it will be those who signed up for the event versus how many actually came. And then we also collect CSAT for employee volunteering events. So that's also mentioned here that CSAT was collected. And that's it. What is the type of implementation? This is directly implemented by a Bhumi, Bhumi resource, or sometimes we work with consultants or NGO partners depending on the expertise required for that particular event or the availability on the ground of resources for that particular event. That's it. This is the data. It's fairly straightforward. Does that answer your question? I think this is Santosh, right? Yeah. Yeah, okay.
So I think there's a bunch of more questions as well.
Yeah, in the data, there is outcome 1, 2, and 3. Is the ranking of these important? It's just that outcome 1 is the primary goal of that particular activity. And if there was something that we got in addition to what we were primarily aiming for, it gets captured as outcome 2 and outcome 3. Do we have a limit for the number of volunteers? So for our corporate volunteering events, yes, we do have a limit because sometimes it becomes difficult to engage a lot of volunteers when there is one person who is running the show, so to speak. But for civic volunteering events, typically we don't have a limit, but we have an idea of how many volunteers are going to turn up, and we have so many coordinators on the ground accordingly. Neha, you can correct me if I'm wrong about anything, okay? Because you're the CV
I think
guru.
it also depends on the type of activity. So, for example, there may not be any maximum numbers for something like a beach cleanup or a tree plantation because the demand is high. But for any school activity or any beneficiary interaction where there is a partner engagement, there it could be less to keep the experience good for everybody or both the partners. So, yeah, there will be limits and it will vary from activity to activity.
Thanks, Neha. The next question is from Alina. She says, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, Alina. Hi everyone, my name is Alina. Thank you, Anusha. Okay, my question is, what is your biggest pain at this moment? What issue do you think the proper analysis and visualization of data will solve in the first place? So our pain point is, see, I'll be very honest, sometimes it is also difficult to encourage volunteers to share information with us, right? Because they want to do the activity and just move on. But the more information we gather, the more it helps us make the next event better or focus on the outcome or whatever it is. So I feel like by showing the volunteers what they have achieved with the data that we've got, it'll probably encourage them to share information back with us also, which is one part of it. But also making, like, in order for us to really get every Indian volunteering, we need to make volunteering look cool. And for that, you need to show what you're achieving, right? As a volunteer, what is the impact you're able to make? I think that's what we're looking for here mostly. So I don't know if that answers your question, Alina, but I would say that we're trying to show our volunteers and our donors what is the impact that we are able to make. And like I said, it's very hard to raise funds for volunteering programs or for programs that promote volunteering, right? It's not easy.
Yeah. Hi, Anusha.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. It's Elena. Thank you for answering. What I'm thinking, do you think some kind of gamification might help? Maybe putting, like, I don't know, leaderboard or like encouraging in this way, right? So,
yes. So
some
that's
kind
what
of achievements. Yeah.
Yeah, so what we are hoping to do with our new club structure is to have this club's leaderboard. And we're going to encourage our volunteers to check in, like every time they do an activity, we'll say, just check in and say, this is what happened, post a photograph. And we will have the most recent stories float up to the top, and have that kind of, like I was saying earlier, this, it's not competition, it's more like getting inspired by what's happening elsewhere and what people are doing, and saying, oh, maybe we can do this here as well. So to be able to see that, the impact of what is happening across all of Bhumi's various clubs, that would be really cool. So yes, that is a goal for us, like putting up leaderboards both at the club level and I also want to share that we have a leadership development program for our volunteers. So we actively invest in them, in their leadership journey. So we have levels, like, so if you start as a volunteer, then you can become an event coordinator. When you've participated in, say, X number of events, then you become an event coordinator. Then from an event coordinator, you start managing a program at your club level or at the city level. And so that means you're setting direction. You are providing the framework for how the whole volunteering team operates. So there is a leadership structure in our volunteering program, which is completely merit-based or participation-based. I shouldn't say merit-based, I should say participation-based. So we have ways for volunteers to grow. And so we're also thinking, like, as we're introducing the clubs model, like we should have badges, we should have these, recognition, ways of recognizing our volunteers for their contributions. That's also part of what we're looking at, yes. And technical question, how often does your data update? So I would say every day there will be some updates, but I think we should look at summarizing it at the end of a week. We would probably not, recreate the dashboard every day, probably do it at the end of the week and see what happened. Okay. Outcome 1.2 and indicator 1.2. No, there is no difference, Preeti. Sorry, they're just named differently in the two different sheets. Outcome 1, 2, 3, indicator is just, we are measuring it as an output to whatever activity was conducted, but there is no difference as such. Can we have the information max volunteers in cases where there is a limit? This will help us measure the target achievement. This will be a little hard to do because, like Neha said, it differs from activity to activity. And there is no target as such. We don't set a target that so many volunteers have to get involved. It is the more the merrier is the is the theme. So I don't think. Sorry, yeah, I think Eco had their hand raised. Would you like to ask your question? Sorry if I kept speaking and didn't give you a chance to.
I think he's put in the chat as well. Anusha.
Yeah,
no
He
problem.
listens.
I'm in a fairly noisy location, so it might be better to just read the text if that helps.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Does Bhumi have? We do have goals like increase funding or increase repeat donations, but these are very internal goals. I'm not sure it makes sense for me to share it in a public forum. And we have KPIs or metrics that are measured for every program. For example, for our volunteering programs, I will just pull up our goal sheet. We have a goal saying that we have to achieve, I think it's 5 lakh volunteering hours in this year. Let me just confirm that 1 second. 5 lakh volunteering hours is what we want to reach this year. So that's like a goal for our teams while they're working. So every program in Bhumi, we use the OKR framework for goal setting. And so we do have goals, but especially for something like repeat donations, these are very like the fundraising team specific goals. They do have these goals, but I don't know I don't know if that goal should be an outcome of this visualization, if that's what you're asking. I don't think we're looking at it like that. No.
That's fine. What I'm just looking to understand is, as we explore this data, you've done a very good job helping us to understand the problem space from your perspective and key things you want to achieve. But to whatever extent the data set and the things you described intersect with your overarching goals in terms of helping you to achieve your mission, just want to get that context so that we can have that in mind and speak to that with the data. If we discover things or find things where we can make recommendations to how you're helping move forward in terms of how you're coming out of data.
That's yeah, a very fair point. I think we can focus on the goal that, you know, we want to engage 5 lakh volunteering. I mean, we want to clock 5 lakh volunteering hours. We want at least 15% of our volunteers to be constantly engaging with us, like do at least participate in at least one event a month or one event in 3 months. You know, we also track our touch points with our volunteers to see how often they're coming back to volunteer with us. Thanks, Vanita. Sorry, I should have thought about the conversion. So, and then we have this term called intrapreneur in Bhumi, which is basically a lot of our Bhumi programs. Like I spoke about the programs where school children are sensitized about the challenges we faced with the environment and how to make sustainable choices. That was the program that was started by one of our volunteers and which eventually became a core program for the organization. We call that intrapreneurship. So we also track, you know, how many of our programs are becoming mainstream, and like there might be a program started by a volunteer somewhere in a club. How many of those are we able to adopt at an organization level and scale it? So these are the kind of metrics that we track for volunteering as such. I wouldn't tie in any fundraising goals with this. That's not what we're looking for. But definitely, if as a result of that better visualization, it enthuses people to volunteer more and to brings in more volunteers because they're able to see the impact of the work that they're doing, that would be a great outcome for us.
Thank you.
Santosh says, please update all queries from others regarding data and make a document and share on the project page or Slack. I'll definitely try to do this. Frederick, if you can give me an export of the chat,
Yeah.
I'll just put it in a document and share the answer.
Yeah,
Or
we
we can,
yeah,
we do that in Slack, or, you know, we'll take care of that. Don't worry about that. Yeah.
but I think it's good to have all those questions into one format, and then you'll have access to the recording as well, so you can play that back. But yeah, we can combine all those Q&As into a single file. That's easy.
Great.
It's good discussion. Any more questions? As I said multiple times, Slack is your friend, so you can tag Anusha, are you going to be the first point of contact, or yourself, or Neha, or yourself primarily?
I'll be the first point of contact for this.
Okay, so I think if you have, talking about volunteers, if you have a question, like technical question about the data or the story, just tag Anusha in Slack, and then Anusha would check Slack once in a while, every few days, and then can answer. If you're looking for inspiration, you can post screenshots, or if you're looking for a partner or group, volunteers collaborating with each other, Slack is your friend as well. It's a very good platform for that kind of project. Any more questions? I think thanks, Anusha, and then Neha. I think you've been very generous with your time. Do you have any more questions? I'm sure the question will come up when people start digging and opening the files.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing all the volunteer questions and the outputs. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for enabling this, Frederick and Vanita. It's exciting. I'm really excited to see, you know, what we can show for this data and taking it forward from there. And I'll be happy to, you know, once we're able to extrapolate it to multi-year or I'd be really happy to showcase that here. Yeah.
So the keywords are be creative, be bold, inspire volunteers, and show you interesting information or insights. Yeah. I think that's what people in that community love doing anyway. So can't wait to see the outcome.
Thank you so much for your time, everyone. And for the great questions.
Yeah, thanks a lot. If there's no more questions, we are over time. I think that's always good to have Anusha answer the question live. But otherwise, we close that meeting, and then you'll have, as I said, 4 to 5 weeks. Don't forget to submit within the time frame. Often people ask me, "Oh, can I have a couple more days?" I think it's putting more pressure on Anusha because we got a deadline of presentation, so she needs to select those 5 volunteers. So the letter you submit, the letter gets from Anusha to select those. So can we find Slack channel link? Santosh, the link is in the project page, which I shared before. But if you send me your email, I can invite you as well.
All right, let's.
Otherwise, we'll close. I'm just for Santosh's purpose, I just put a link to project page, and there's a link to the Slack in there. Thanks, everyone. Vanika, you want to? There's nothing else.
No, that's it. I'm just yeah. Everyone have a good night, good day, or good weekend as well.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for joining. Thanks,
you.
Anusha, and then Neha to answer those questions and share your work. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you online.
Thank you.
Oh.
You can stop the recording too.
Yeah, I'm looking for that button. Where's the